All right. Looks like we are finally up here and live. So great to see you guys. Welcome to another episode of Andy's Chomping at the Bit, brought to you by Big Andy Media, the official sponsor of second every episode of Andy's Chomping at the Bit. So yeah, this is a new experience for me here. I've done a lot of things with the software, but this is the first time that I'll be doing it on here on a live stream for this. I do the Big Andy Media. I do the singing for a cause live performances that way. But anyway, without further ado, I want to talk about here substituting addictions. And the reason I came up with this topic for today is because I've had several discussions just over the last year with folks about recovery, and I find that when I talk about substituting addictions, as in when you as an addict, when you stop, when you cut out what you're addicted to, your active addiction, um, your body, your brain naturally wants to fill that gap and naturally wants to substitute that. And so oftentimes it'll either create another addiction or it'll just pull from one you already have. And so the common one, I've had this discussion with my dad even, the common one that comes up is, and this is one with that my dad literally, I've had this, he's brought this one up, and so this is where I see the disconnect. He said, well, you substitute it with something healthy like exercise. And so here's where there's the disconnect. Um, the idea of, yes, exercising is great, exercising is healthy, and so compared to smoking crack, it's a great thing. Um, but there's a drawback to actually substituting working out or exercise. See, if you're substituting your primary addiction and make with working out, that means working out becomes an addiction. And most people, this is why I feel most people don't understand, or a lot of people don't truly understand addiction. Addiction isn't just simply getting in place a good habit and running with it. Addiction is more compulsive. Addiction is consuming. So, case in point, if I became addicted to exercise, I would do it beyond a healthy level. Over time, I'd put it as a higher priority in my life. I would put it over my social interaction. If I had $100 and I had to choose between food and the gym membership, if I was addicted to exercise, I would pay the gym membership. I'd figure out food some other way. So there's the big difference. And there's people that are really diehard into certain activities. My brother is uh, he's big into exercise. He always has been. Um, he works out frequently. I believe even he's an instructor even at CrossFit in Windsor. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure he is. And he's competed before in, I believe, in functional fitness. And he does the Spartan Warrior Dashes. But he is not addicted to exercise because he still puts his family first. He still shows up to work. He doesn't, he doesn't just skip work because he wants to be at the gym 24/7. He has other things in his life, and working out isn't the thing for him. It's a big part of his life. It's a big part of his routine. It's something he enjoys, but it is not all consuming for him. So that's where the disconnect is. And I feel that the disconnect is there because a lot of people try to understand addiction, but they don't fully grasp it, and that's okay. It's not an easy concept. I'll acknowledge that it is not. It is not easy um, to grasp something that you haven't personally dealt with. And when I say personally, directly dealt with, I mean not a loved one of yours that you lived with that was struggling with addiction. I mean you personally struggle with addiction. There's a, I shouldn't say huge difference, but the feeling it and seeing it aren't always exactly the same. I'm not saying that it's easier for someone that doesn't have addiction that lived with someone who did. Not even trying to claim that. What I'm stating is the understanding factor that, and so I often try to explain it uh, in a way that people that if you read fiction books or even if you like watching movies, Lord of the Rings is my go-to for describing addiction. So in Lord of the Rings, the whole thing of the power of the ring, the one ring to rule it all, is that when you wear it, the feeling is what draws you, and the more you wear it, the more you're drawn to it. And it changes you, it warps you, and it can eventually destroy you. So that's kind of how addiction is. It becomes all consuming. The feeling, you just want more. You don't want, it consumes you. That's addiction is like the ring in Lord of the Rings. It's, as an analogy, it's pretty similar to that. So if you substitute one addiction for another, all you're doing is taking this ring from Lord of the Rings and getting an exact replica, just in a different color or something. It's just the same effect, just a different object, or a different addiction. That's how it is. So, but it's, I bring up substituting addictions also because it is something that I can at least say personally, on my recovery journey. It's one of the things that I always have to be aware of. I have to monitor things. So when I went to treatment, I had quit. I went to treatment for quitting smoking crack cocaine, and crack's a stimulant. So by cutting that out, when I was in treatment, I upped the amount of caffeine intake, and I upped the amount of nicotine intake, and I started eating a lot more. Because those are three other addictions I have. I have an addiction to caffeine, I have addiction to nicotine, and then I have an addiction to food, and particularly overeating. That's the compulsive side of addiction. That's the difference between liking food a lot, loving food a lot, and being addicted to it. I could literally, if I had a piece of cake and I wasn't paying attention, if I wasn't focused and I wasn't aware, it wouldn't be very hard, and it wouldn't be very unrealistic for me to end up 5 minutes later looking down and realizing I consumed 3 extra pieces. It's a common thing you hear in addiction in meetings, like Narcotics Anonymous and other meetings, other anonymous meetings. You often hear things like, one is too many and 1,000's never enough. And that's a very powerful statement that carries with addiction. So I have a lot of family and friends that have struggled with weight. I'm going to focus on the food one because this is a great way to separate it. I have family that's struggled with food, and often it is portions and what they eat. And there's great plans out there. The most common one that comes to mind is Weight Watchers. It is very effective. It's helped a lot of people, including my family members, lose weight and keep weight off. But there's something that Weight Watchers has that I cannot do being addicted to food. And that is they give you flex points, cheat points, however you want to look at it. You get X amount every week. And so you have those boundaries there that you can work with. So you can cheat so much. But I can't. As an addict, I can't cheat because I can't hold that boundary. Not sustainably. I could hold it periodically. But eventually I slip more and more. Classic example, the holidays. Typically throughout the year, I might have one meal where I'm meeting with friends, or for whatever reason I eat less healthy one day. Well, I got like 2 weeks where I am eating great, or I at least have the rest of 1 week where I eat well before I have maybe another slight slip. Well, in the holidays that changes. In the holidays, I give in a little bit, but there's opportunity to slip so much more that I derail really quick. Now, fortunately, I've overcome the part of my in my addiction where I beat myself up for making a mistake. I understand that I can stop. I don't have to wait till tomorrow to get back on track. I don't have to wait till next week. I can get back on track the second I notice. So, I in the holidays, I put on a little bit of weight. That's, like I said, I still struggle with substituting. That's not going away. And I can't get complacent on it too. That's very important. If I get complacent on the idea of will I substitute, will I not, it's gonna happen. It's somewhat programmed into me, and I'm working to the best of my ability to change that programming. But some of it, to an extent, is locked in. So I have to work with what I have. And so being aware, and that's my gift. That is my biggest asset when it comes to my recovery, is I am very, very aware. I can identify, I can step back when I notice things are off and find out what's the change. Sometimes even in my own head, I can call it out. Sometimes I'm too stubborn to do it out loud. That's, once again, one of those things I struggle with, one of the things I'm working on. But having the awareness to step back, that's my strength in the battle with not relapsing and with not substituting one addiction for another. Another classic substitution for an addiction. Let me go back to the recovery thing, treatment. So I cut out the went into treatment, not using crack, but I had upped the nicotine and the caffeine and the eating. So while I was in there still in a controlled environment, I cut out caffeine, which was good because I was literally, by noon, I had 3 pots of coffee. Not 3 cups, 3 pots of coffee. It was a wake up, brew a pot of coffee, pour it on ice, drink it, go to the first class or whatever in the morning, or first meeting, and then during the break, do the same thing. So it was that much caffeine. That's as deadly as crack, basically. Maybe not quite that, but the point is, it's definitely not a good habit. So I cut out the caffeine. Took me a few days, but anyway, by doing that, so now I took out 2 of them. But my body all of a sudden is still looking to replace that. So next thing I know, my nicotine consumption is through the roof, more than it had ever been before. It was like chain one after another, and it was expensive, to put it lightly. I mean, it was I was buying it in the cheapest form, tubes and a bag of tobacco and rolling, and it was still expensive. So, and my food intake was also going up. But before I left treatment, I got on the patches, and because I was stubborn and I didn't want to see in treatment, you have to take the patch off if you're going to smoke. But then to get a new patch put back on, you have to go to the nurse's station. The nurse's station isn't always readily available. So it's either you can smoke a cigarette and then you have to wait 4 hours before you can get another patch, or you simply wait it out. And I was too stubborn to, waiting for a patch. So I just, my stubbornness actually worked to my benefit there. But I cut out that, and so all I was left with was the food and overeating, which is outrageously, it was bad, putting it lightly. And so if I have to find one gray area of positive, and when I turned myself, well, there's a couple areas, but I guess the physical health, turning myself in and going to jail for 7 months was, I was regulated in how much food I got. So it forcefully pulled me in on the calorie intake and helped me lose weight. I didn't buy commissary, which is the store within. I other than hygiene products, I told my folks, don't put money in my account for that. I'd rather be able to make calls once a day, a simple 10-minute call once a day, than have a lot of snacks. So, but anyway, that was an example of how I got through the substituting. One that's more struggling, one of my other addictions is a sex addiction. And like my crack addiction, it stopped right around that same time. Actually stopped a couple days before. But that one, your body wants to substitute more. And so one of the ones I mightily struggled with, was substituting a sex addiction for a porn addiction. And I justified it in my head, well, the porn addiction isn't going to get me hooked back on crack. And so, and there's several other arguments I'd make. Well, this one's cheaper, but that doesn't make it any better. The part in the brain was still, the same issue I was having. It was still becoming a compulsive thing. It was, when you have to rely on a certain action, behavior to feel all right, that's not healthy. So, and so when I cut that was the hardest part. And I can't say that I haven't relapsed on that one. It's like I said, it's a very tough one to address because it's uncomfortable bringing it up at any meetings. It's very uncomfortable even bringing up in a therapy session, but it is a surprisingly common substitute that many recovering addicts that struggled with sex addiction go to. And so I had to address that a little bit personally. And part of it was finding out why I was drawn to that. And so the tie with the sex addiction and the porn addiction, well, the sex addiction was often the feeling of being alone. And so I'm not sure how the porn addiction ties directly to that, because I never watched for the sake of not trying not to feel alone. It was more of a I'm stressed kind of deal, and it doesn't make it any better. It's still just as unhealthy as the sex addiction. But it was something I had to address and had to get in order. So, but yes, I really wanted to get this one out. Because so many people, like I said, don't truly understand. I don't think they understand. Many people don't understand addiction, and that's, as a recovering addict, that some of that responsibility does fall on my shoulders and fellow recovering addicts to help people understand, not get mad at people for not understanding, not for belittling people or being condescending to people that don't understand. It's not an easy concept if you haven't lived with it internally. If it isn't something that has brought you down, it's hard to truly grasp the extent. It's not simply I do it because I like it. That's sometimes how it starts. But there's a draw to it much stronger than simply wanting to. So uh, I think by clarifying how substituting works, how you're not getting any better switching from this one to this one, because the mentality behind it, the compulsiveness and the reliance and the consumption of your time and your energy, it's consistent there. So some of them you don't overdose with, obviously, as far as the substituting, but recovery isn't just stopping the use. Recovering is much greater than that. It's changing who you are, changing how you think, changing how you behave, changing your way of life. Sometimes that means changing your environment, the world around you, the people around you, learning to live with things you can't control, and learning to address things that you can, and learning to figure out which is which. I literally just paraphrased the Serenity Prayer, but I put it in my own words. Yeah, that way I don't get played. I can't really get in trouble for plagiarism, can you, on that one? I don't know. But anyway, that's the topic for today. The whole substituting addictions. So I do want to address, though. Let's see. I accidentally hit the wrong thing. No, I didn't. Okay. So I do want to address before I sign out here that we do have Singing for a Cause. It's going to be this Sunday. It is not going to be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This Sunday, this January's been very, very busy. A good way, though. A good busy. But busy nonetheless. It's going to start, again, like last week. It's going to start at 1 p.m., around 1 p.m. And I'm going to go, let's see, scratch that. It's going to start at noon. I'm going to start it at noon, and I'm going to do another 1 hour show. Just a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah, that will be this Sunday at noon to 1. And if you miss it, it will be recorded, and you can enjoy it later at your own convenience. But that's all I have for you today. I really do appreciate the time you have taken to watch this, whether it be live or I hope it's recording so I can show you guys later too. But anyway, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.